folks, welcome to the Prepared Homestead. This is Travis. Thank you all for stopping by to watch a chilly morning here in the Ozarks, and probably some snow coming in here in a couple of days or so. As usual with that kind of stuff, the weather is reporting is just kind of all over the board. We might get a dusting, we might get 4 or 5 inches, who knows? We might get an ice storm. We're kind of right on the edge between the snow and the ice, so we'll see what we get. Knowing our luck, it'll be a little bit of both. But that's coming in, and then I'm sure we'll warm back up again. That's just normal. A farm worker in Nevada has tested positive for H5N1, and about 50,000 dairy cows along with that have been affected by H5N1. Not infected, affected. They're not really giving a lot of detail on how many cows they have tested positive, if any, but they're shutting things down there. 2 zoos in New York had birds that tested positive and died because of the H5N1, and about 15,000 wild birds in Salt Lake City, Utah have died, they say, because of H5N1. It is spreading. It is getting more and more to that point where it could start being really noticeable. Right now, I think it's just the people that are paying attention. The average person is not paying attention to this. But eventually, it looks like it's going to get to that point. We had the largest earthquake in 2 years yesterday down the Caribbean. Elon Musk is now suggesting that Ron Paul should help him audit the Fed. The only problem with that one is no one's really saying this, is that the Fed is not a federal government agency. So I don't know, even if, you know, his Department of Government Efficiency has any authority on a federal government level. I can't imagine it having any authority with the Federal Reserve because it's not federal, it's a private bank. Anyways, it sounds good. It's getting a lot of people excited about that. I mean, I think that would be great, but I just doubt that it's really going to happen. But certainly a lot of chaos is happening when it comes to cutting funds and cutting employees, and the left is starting to push back. And I said that this was eventually going to start happening. I thought that in the very beginning, you know, in the last couple of weeks, that they were kind of in a state of shock. You know, there was this, you know, they couldn't believe it. They may not quite be comprehending what is actually going on. But I think it's starting to settle in. And there's all kinds of internet posts of people that have lost their jobs because of this, lost funding for certain projects. Politicians now are coming out of the woodwork. I mean, they even drug out old Bernie Sanders to make a video on how we need to keep funding USAID because there's so many starving, you know, politicians and corrupt, you know, people that need to have that funding. But yeah, people, they're starting to get a little upset about it. And there's judges that are ruling saying that, you know, Donald Trump and his government can't do this. They can't go through, you know, cutting things out and firing people and cutting funding and stuff. So there's a legal and a political battle that's already building. If this continues, which it looks like it's going to, when will that political and legal battle start to turn to more of a physical battle? And I think that's the big question. And when you start to see things like over the weekend, Donald Trump cut Barack Obama and Joe Biden's security clearance, like completely removed it. They no longer have a security clearance. They no longer are receiving daily briefings. He's done that with several other people in the Obama and the Biden administrations that's been still kind of prominent in the news, you know, advisors and things like that. They're getting their security clearances cut. As this stuff continues, there's going to be more and more pushback, and it's going to go from verbal to political and legal, and then it's quite possible it can go into physical. And I'm not saying that you're going to see Joe Biden and Barack Obama out there on the streets pushing for a civil war. That's what all their paid henchmen are for. And you will very possibly start to see terrorist attacks. You could see just protests and riots. I mean, think about it. Some of the very folks that you and I have talked about over the years that probably want to do America harm are getting really, really upset right now. You've got your extremist terrorists groups that are in the country, and they're mad because of what's going on in the Middle East and how Trump is saying they're going to kick out all the Palestinians out of Gaza. You've got all of the hardcore gang members and cartel that are upset because they're being told they're going to be rounded up and they're going to be shot at and they're going to be destroyed across the border, whether being kicked out of the country or the border wars of putting military troops to stop the cartels. And then you've got just the far lefties that are upset because their funding is being cut. I saw Planned Parenthood had $61 million in funding cut. How many other very far left organizations? I mean, there's dozens and dozens, and there's probably more to come. As this continues, this is where you're going to start seeing the battle lines being drawn, and more violent talk and talk of whether it's seceding. We've already seen that in California. I think it was the Secretary of State in California has proposed, or I think has actually sent in or entered in or is trying to get signatures on some secession papers for California. So that kind of talk's going to happen, and then you're going to start seeing more and more violent talk. That's really where we need to be getting ready for right now, because this stuff it's moving very rapidly, folks. I mean, it's a whirlwind. Every day there's something new happening. It's at a point now it's really impossible just to keep up on it all. And that level of intensity and push is going to it's terrifying a lot of people, and there's going to be some pushback, and that's where we need to start getting ourselves prepared. It's not going to take much, because there's the whole country. You got to understand this. This isn't anything new. Over the last several years, the whole country is becoming it's more and more on a little knife's edge of completely collapsing, falling apart, social breakdown. And then now it seems like it's even worse because of what's going on in Washington, because of what's going on at the border and what's going on in other countries. And then you have all that going on at the same time. You've got a horrible flu season. You've got H5N1 building up. You've got an economy that's becoming more and more uncertain. More tariffs. Trump announced yesterday that this week he's going to be imposing a bunch of new tariffs on a bunch of other countries, not just Mexico and Canada and China, but a bunch of other countries. So as this stuff starts happening, this is a major upheaval for our nation, whether it's good or bad, whether it ends up being the greatest thing that ever happened to this country or not. The fact is right now there's a lot of upheaval, and that always it's always a risk, a high risk of really bad things starting to happen. People panicking, people becoming violent, social breakdown worsening, mentally ill people unable to handle all of this change, all of this kind of stuff. You need to be getting yourselves prepared, stocking up, getting all the stuff you need to be doing that you need to be doing, right? You know what you need to be stocking up on. You know the things that you need to be getting yourselves ready, going over your plan, figuring out what you're going to do as things start to worsen. Because now's the time to do it, because it's getting better and worse at the same time. And we have to realize that. So that needs to be something that's a pretty high priority for you over the next probably 30, 60 days at least. I mean, think about how much has changed in the last 3 weeks. A lot. A massive amount of change in the last 3 weeks. If we keep going with this same level of intensity, my goodness, what's it going to be in 8 weeks from now? I mean, you may not even recognize what's going on in the country and how people are reacting to it. So definitely be getting everything ready, because I suspect that something is going to break at some point. I mean, are they going to unleash the H5N1 to stop all of this, to slow things down? Or is it just going to be a greater and greater risk for just a social breakdown? You know, at this point, there's just no way they're going to sit back and allow this to happen. Unless it's part of the plan. And like I've said, if that is the case, then that makes it worse than anything else. But be getting yourselves ready, folks. Getting your houses in order and preparing yourselves mentally, physically, and spiritually. Thanks for watching. Catch you in the next video.